I've been a member of the association for a long time, but I hardly ever come to meetings because my life is sort of crazy busy. Once upon a time I was one of the people that ran Internode. We sold that to IINet. I was one of the people who ran IINet, and that little adventure finished up about a year and a half ago, and these days I'm...
Can you use the microphone, please?
Oh, yes, sorry. For the last year and a half I've been a consultant and a company director. I'm on the board of several companies that Simon Hackett, the founder of Internode, has invested in. One of which is developing nanotech battery electrodes that are intended to end up in lithium chemistry batteries. They're based up in Brisbane, and it's actually quite interesting and exciting. So sometimes when I express an opinion about battery electrochemistry or their uses, it's because I actually hang out with some people who really do it for a living. So some of you may know I have a Blade electric vehicle, battery electric vehicle. It was converted by Ross Blade in Victoria, and it was converted for Simon Hackett. And when he finally got a road-registered Tesla, Australian road-registered Tesla, he and I cut a deal, and I acquired the car. Now, a little while ago at Burnside Village, an electric vehicle charging point showed up, and you know, on the charge point network. Now, those of you who've got your own, who've converted your own car, may have used the 15 amp outlets at the Central Market car park on Charge Point. Is everybody a member of Charge Point? Yeah. It's good. I mean, you get free electric vehicle charging. Sign up online. It took like months for the little fob thing to show up from them. Months. And I thought, gee, it must just be, you know, it must have cratered. But no, it turned up in the mail, and I used it, and it worked. And yes, you get free parking at the Central Market. Free parking. And you get to charge your car. So you don't get free parking unless you charge your car. How cool is that? And it has a 15 amp outlet. There's two of them there. It's, you know, up the top of the ramp is before the gates as you go into the car park. Great for those of us with conversions. I've seen people there though with you know, commercial electric vehicles with converters to turn that 10 or 15 amps into well, J1772. And yeah, and a sort of ugly array of various adapters and boxes, which is sad for them. But you know, for those of us who have a converted car, the future is this proprietary. Well, it's not proprietary. It's a standard. It's from the Society of Automotive Engineers, but it's the thing that commercial electric vehicles have on them for charging. And just about all electric vehicles, commercial electric vehicles in Australia, have at least a J1772 connector on them. Anybody know the big mainstream one that doesn't? Tesla. The Tesla Model S has the UK style Mennekes connector. The one upside to that connector is it's a 3-phase capable connector. But yeah, if you have a Tesla and you want to charge it at the Burnside Village car park, you're actually out of luck. Although I have got the Mennekes plug, and I have got a J1772 socket, and I have got a pretty good idea how to hook one to the other such that it might work, and just haven't had the spare afternoon to go and play with a friendly Tesla Model S to see whether it works. You need to have a friend who had two of them in case I blew it up.
Or three.
Well, two is enough. The third one's a roadster.
Is he going to buy a new Roadster in 2019?
No, he's getting the dual motor. Oh, actually, he's going to get the Roadster, yeah, but he's getting the dual motor Model S. He just hasn't. With ludicrous mode, except that he keeps saying, oh, it's like, yeah, but they might make it better next week. So this charging point has been mocking me. You know, there it is with its connector. Everybody familiar with this? This connector? So this connector has mocked me. There was free electricity and a very convenient car park right at the bottom of the escalator at Burnside Village. So I did a little bit of research. There's the socket that I would need to have on my car. And so I researched just what it is that happens with the socket and the charging station, and on the right hand side of this is what's going on inside the car, and the left hand side of it's what's going on inside this black charging station box here that's on the table. It's actually a lot simpler than it looks, but nevertheless it wasn't something that I was going to be able to whip up from a spare piece of fencing wire and some gaffer tape. A little bit more research online, and I found the AVC2, which is a little module. You connect it up to a J1772 socket on your vehicle, and it does all of that electronics that was on the circuit diagram before. So basically what it's looking for is the plug. There's a resistor in the plug, so it can tell that a plug is present, and when it's worked out there's a plug present, then it signals that it would like to be charged, and when the charging station sees the signal that the car would like to be charged, the charging station indicates to the car what the maximum number of amps are that can be drawn, and the technique here, it's modulating a square wave, kind of, sort of. Unless you're really interested in it, it's just take it the two things are actually talking to each other. So there's the module. I bought it on eBay, believe it or not. Just search on eBay for AVC2. You can also search on eBay for J1772 plugs and J1772 sockets. If you find the Tucson EV company, they actually sell a lot of this sort of stuff online as well. It's worth hunting around, because the difference between the expensive one and the cheap one is, the sort of $100, $150, and it seems to be exactly the same thing that's come from exactly the same factory. So, with the exception of the sockets, there are actually some sockets that are made by that are not licensed. SAE J1772 sockets. They've been lovingly fabricated by people who don't feel the need to pay a license fee for them. Bless them.
Free trade.
Yeah. So, what does it look like when it's actually implemented? That's it stuck in the boot of my EV with the other electronics. It's only a few wires connected to it. Firstly, the green LED is on because it can see the presence of the plug in the socket. That's the proximity signal. And there's a relay inside the module, and the purpose of the relay is to you hook the contacts into the cutout that you doubtless have on your car that ensures that when you have a power connector in for charging, that you've actually disabled the electronics, so you can't drive off in the car. Has everybody got that?
Yep.
Everybody got that? Yeah. So there's contacts that you can wire that in. So I just disconnected the original contacts in my caravan socket on the car and wired them onto this module. Now, I'm a cheapskate, and I didn't feel the need to go and spend many hundreds of dollars on a J1772 charging point for my house. If you go and look at the standard, it turns out that it's perfectly legitimate to just feed the mains power to that socket. The vehicle's not entitled to draw more than 10 or 15 amps. My car only draws 10 amps anyway, so it doesn't matter. So I got a 10 amp extension cord from the hardware store, and I chopped the end off it, and I soldered it onto the plug here and assembled it. You need a couple of special screwdrivers to pull the plug apart, but I suspect that everyone here who's ever converted an electric car is the kind of person who has a set of screwdrivers with the funny shaped ends on them. And you can see there's the resistor is in there, that's part of the proximity circuit, and there's a little micro switch under there. When you push on the button to release the lock, that causes the proximity circuit to go open circuit, which causes the proper charger to disconnect the main supply, which is designed to protect the contacts in that J1772 connector from arcing. The contacts are a thing of beauty. Like when you pull that plug apart, you see them. They're silver plated and you know, the most substantial things. They are really very much designed to handle sort of 40 to 60 amps. The plugs come in different ratings, so do make sure you get one that suits your needs. If you have a commercial J1772 vehicle in Australia, I don't believe there are any of them that draw more than 15 amps. So even if the charging station says, hey, I've got 20 amps available, there aren't any current commercial vehicles with J1772 that will draw more than 15. If the current model Leaf ever made it to Australia, that can, but the current vehicles being sold, I don't believe there are any that are more than 15.
So what's on the other end of that yellow cable? What?
Oh, just a plug, just a normal mains plug.
Which you've put in your car?
So this plugs into the car,
Yeah.
and the other end just plugs into a normal power point. So this is my home charging cable.
So the resistor, what does that connect on to? Like,
So it loops back around in the plug. So when the plug plugs into the car, the little module knows that there's a plug present.
okay.
So in the case of a sort of proper 1772 charging station, the car knows to send the signal back to the station to close the relay to allow the power through to the car. And the station tells the car what the maximum number of amps are that the station can provide, and it does that by controlling effectively the duty cycle of the pulse that it sends down the line.
But with this,
With this, the car will just sort of default to its lowest common denominator setting. Now, in the case of my car, I have one of those Zyvan chargers, and all I've done is replace a normal GPO caravan socket with something that pretends that the car is smart it pretends well enough to convince any 1772 station that the car can be charged. And everyone that I've tried it with, it's been more than happy to.
That's that ABC2 device. That's all that does it.
Yes,
Okay.
that tiny little module. Now there are some people in the US I've seen who have done something very complicated with changeover relays, so that they can have a 1772 socket and a GPO socket. Now, of course, you wouldn't want to just wire that in parallel, because as soon as the 1772 is energized, now you've got these two pins of death right next to it. So you would actually want something that was going to do some kind of changeover there to prevent that most unfortunate thing. Sorry, I've just come back from the workplace health and safety training, so.
We all know about that.
So John, with this system you make sure you plug it in first, then plug it into your power line?
Yeah, so the contacts are very, very robust, and in the case of a charger like a Zyvan, it doesn't look like a short circuit when you plug it in. It has a whole sort of soft start, so it's really not an issue. But it wouldn't be good to just unplug it while you were charging if you really cared about the life of the contacts. But then you probably wouldn't do it on your GPO that you currently have on the car. I mean, we're at the kind of toy end of the charging current. This unit down here is actually designed to deliver as many as 60 amps, which that 63 amps is a standard supply fuse for a house in South Australia currently. So, success. I was able to finally charge my Blade EV from that charging station at Burnside. Now, if anybody is interested in the Blade EV, since we've already had one classified ad for an EV, the Blade is looking for a new home, because I'm in the process of acquiring a Tesla Model S. It actually needs a number of new batteries. The battery pack has not been well looked after over its life for a variety of reasons. Ross Blade wasn't a genius at doing electric vehicle conversions. I know that from experience. I've driven one of his cars for a long time. And there are one or two things about the way that it was first delivered to Simon that meant that the battery pack suffered a couple of bad incidents. But if anybody is interested in it, I am open to yeah. What I'm trying to convey is that I would be prepared to part company with it because of the various challenges the vehicle presents, not least of which is it's not technically registered in South Australia as an electric vehicle, although it has the inspection paperwork from Regency, but somehow it was just never actually changed so that its registration states as an electric vehicle.
You used to be a car salesman, didn't you?
I used to be an internet salesman, and before that I used to be in IT, and of course we know the difference between IT salespeople and used car salespeople, don't we?
You told us all some of the faults. So.
It's AC, isn't it?
Sorry, it's AC. Yes, it's absolutely AC. It does regen very nicely. I have a photo of Robert Llewellyn driving it. It never made it into a fully charged episode, but it has been driven by somebody slightly famous. Anyway, when I say I'd be open to offers, I wouldn't like to pay you to take it away, but that if somebody is interested in, especially if you're interested in perhaps taking the EV drive system and putting it into something else, or just working out what you need to do to get it properly on the road. It is a lovely car.
What's the base model of the vehicle?
It's a Hyundai Getz, and it has hardly any Ks on it. Something like 16 or 17,000 kilometres. So it hasn't had a hard life. My next challenge with all of this is to attempt to build a converter to charge a Model S from a J1772 charging station. So if that works, I'll come back with the demonstration. Sorry.
Adapter you can get on eBay for that.
For the Australian Model S or for the Roadster? Because you can get a Roadster adapter.
TSLA2.
I'm pretty sure that's the Roadster adapter. There's a CHAdeMO adapter for the Model S that in theory is available in Australia. Don't quite know why Tesla Australia haven't made an adapter available. What I have seen at Simon Hackett's Base 64, a Melbourne Model S driven to Adelaide. The owner has a variety of adapters in a box in his boot. One of them is a 3-phase, so a standard Australian commercial 3-phase, 32 amp per phase plug, a little British box, and then the Menike's connector, and doing 32 amps per phase. It's so close to fast charging, it's not funny.
Someone with the three-phase plug.
So if you ask the Base 64 people nicely, they'll let you use it, because there's actually one in the car park just for that very purpose. But so the guy with the Model S from Melbourne did his research and made contact with people between Adelaide and Melbourne, and has actually worked out the run. So he's got people in Ballarat and Horsham and a couple of other places who had suitable sources of power for him to charge the vehicle, which is very enterprising of him. It's just wish that wish that it was actually something that was slightly more formal. But as more Model S's show up in Adelaide, we'll probably convince a couple of motels and restaurants and maybe a roadhouse somewhere to do it.
Shows Tesla SA72 adapter.
Oh, okay.
Yours for $89.
Awesome. I'm John at lindsaystrategic.com. Excellent. Any other questions?
Did you have it insured, and how did you get it insured?
It's actually, so it's insured as a petrol car, because that's what matches its. I haven't.
Get a crash and then you find out that it's something else.
Well, I presume so.
Okay. It's not bad.
And this is one of the challenges of a vehicle like this that you inherited in the first place. So,
You say it's been through Regency, but you just didn't quite get round to notifying. That's simply a matter, if you've got all the Regency approval papers, it's a case of going to the registrar with those papers and simply notifying them, I think. I don't think there's even any money changes now. The police, as I remember it, I put mine through Regency, and I then had to get a check on the motor to see if it was a VIN number to see that it wasn't stolen. It's a new car, hardly an issue. And the other issue was they record that number, and those papers are simply taken to the motor reg, and and they record it, and then they forget because they don't seem to have anything on my papers now that I get that says anything about electric, although it is and it's registered as such, and I've got the papers to prove
Mine's
it.
got electric under the
Okay. Well,
They're a bit haphazard, I think. They really haven't quite worked out how to deal with electric yet. Number of cylinders, one, this big round thing called a motor.
yeah, bless them. Any other questions before I hand the all-important control over? Oh, sorry. This is an eMotorworks juice box. If you're interested in them, if you've seen them, it's destined to be mounted on a pole at base 64, so that people with commercial EVs can charge them in the car park.
What does that cost?
I can't remember now. It was something in the order of $500 or $600. With exchange rate shifting, that will have moved that adversely. However, it's about the cheapest. Well, at the time, it was about the cheapest way to find a high-capacity 1772 charging station that you could sort of bolt to a pole outside. You know, it's what I happened to find at the time. So
What goes in the bottom? It gets 240 volt split to wire to how many amps? 20 amps?
up to 60, and you dial into it what it's going to tell the car the maximum is. So you can feed a 10 amp circuit to it and tell it, you know, no more than 10 amps. Feed it a, you know, 6. Well, you need to derate it, but that's what your electrician is for. If the car is well behaved, it won't attempt to draw more than the juice box is telling it can draw, and the juice box is smart about it. It's actually measuring the current. If the car is greedy, it will actually disconnect the power because it's assuming that something has gone wrong. I've had a little play with a similar device with a Model S, because the Model S you can dial in the charging current, but the charging station that we were playing with, we could also dial in the maximum charging current on the station. So we'd change the current on the station and the car would dutifully flip to whatever it was that we'd change it to on the station, which is kind of nifty.
You plug that. You can plug that into a 15 amp power point by the look of it. And
Yeah.
at this end, then just goes into the car and it does all the things.
So the power cord that's on it, we just put on it to demo it, so that the electrician who's going to install it actually understood what was going on. And this is just the standard American unit. It quite happily works on Australian 240 volt. It doesn't get concerned that it's not sort of US style split phase 220 or 240 volts. Because I know that when the Tesla Roadsters first came here, their charging station and Australian 240 volts didn't coexist, and it used to trip out with an earth leak fault.
And have you still got the 3-pin on the car as well?
No, I've only got
You've only got this now, and you have to use that.
with my redneck charging cable with the standard 10 amp plug on the end of the lead.
You have to take that with you everywhere.
I do, unless I'm going somewhere where I know there's one of these. But I always used to take a charging cable with me anyway, so it's no major burden to have to take. Yeah, this is overkill though. You know, this is and because it's expensive and it does something that my car doesn't need. But you know, if you had a Leaf or an iMev and you wanted to charge it at 15 amps, this will do that for you. You know, 15 amps, it's like 50% better than 10 amps, isn't it? May improve your day. Excellent. I'm not offering to sell these or anything. I just merely happen to have one in a box, so I thought I would bring it along so everyone can see it. Thank you all.